Welcome back to the podcast for Common Liberty. Common Liberty podcast. We're going to load the clip today. We have a very special guest, Anna McCartney, and in honor of the National Library Week, we're going to talk about the role of Blasco Library in the Erie community. And so thank you very much for joining us on the Common Liberty podcast, Anna.
Thanks for inviting me.
Right on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your history.
Well, I'm retired now, but I have many past lives. I've done many different things. A lot of them have involved education. I have my degree in secondary science education, and I worked at the Erie Times News. I wrote a newspaper page each week about the environment and many other pages. One of them was a literacy page, which I was very proud of. I did a story where I put a chapter a week and then had kids answer questions, and then I printed their answers in the paper so they could see themselves. That was pretty exciting. And so I also worked at Sea Grant, working with teachers and with people in the community, with students to get them involved in environmental awareness and doing, proper things to take care of the environment so they understood why. So that was pretty cool. We would bring kids out to Presque Isle and on buses, and we would take them to the park, to the beaches, because a lot of them had never been there. So that was pretty cool. But I'm an immigrant, that you might not know that. I came from Italy when I was a young child. And it was right after the Second World War. And my family had lived through some pretty horrendous, we were born after the war ended, but my family experienced some very horrendous things in Italy. When we came to America, my grandfather, who had already been here, one of the biggest things to him was to take us to the library because we did not have books and we did not have a lot of money. So we regularly walked to the Oakland Library, which is quite a walk, but we would go get books every week, and that was our introduction to libraries. And so ever since, they've been a very important part of our lives and our family. So pretty cool. So I'm excited National Library Week.
Right. National Library Week brings people together.
Yeah.
Libraries are so important. You said Oakland. Is that Pittsburgh, Oakland?
Yes,
okay.
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh. And
Very
so
good.
when we moved from Italy to America, we moved near Shadyside, between Bloomfield and Shadyside. That's
Okay.
where a lot of the Italians were. And so, so it's been a long, it seems like just yesterday. But so books, education, library were always very important to our family. And so that's one of the reasons I got so involved with protecting the Blasco Library and trying to keep it public.
Well, this is a classic story of immigrating to the United States and a family that reinvents itself in a new society.
Yeah.
And Erie is in a similar process of reinventing itself.
Yes.
And it's so important that the community appreciates the history of Lake Erie and its role in education and science. But someone like yourself, who has been involved for so long in all of those areas, as well as the news, is something that really brings this subject about Blasco Library together.
Yeah.
So we'll get into a couple questions about some of your personal background before we get into Save Blasco. But tell us a little bit about your best vacation.
My best vacation. We don't take a lot of vacations because we don't have a lot of disposable income. It's gotten so expensive. So a lot of the vacations we did a lot of backpacking when I was younger, and so we walked, and it didn't cost much. You just put your tent up.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of that. I did earn some trips when I used to sell educational toys and software and books. And we got to go to Mexico, to Cancun, and to Hawaii. That was pretty special.
That sounds nice.
Those are kinds of trips we never took. And as growing up, we never went on vacation.
Going to Hawaii must have been a big
That was
change.
that was
I went
that was pretty nice. Pretty nice.
I went to Maui when I was 16, and you get there, and it's just like the most beautiful place you've
I
ever
know, you're
seen.
like, I can't believe that
And
I'm here. It's like,
and
especially if you're going in the winter time. And
Mhm.
you know, we left Erie in January and end up in this beautiful, beautiful.
we we went in the summer, um, and the best part about it is like it was nice and warm, but you get this cool ocean
Yeah, I know.
breeze going against your
Yeah,
skin. It just
Mhm.
feels really nice. Like, just really enjoy it.
yeah.
I visited Cancun and the Yucatan a couple
Yes,
times, and just the color of the water
yes.
in the Caribbean
It's amazing.
around the Bahamas
Yeah.
is so amazing. And when we see Lake Erie, it really makes it even more important that we protect that natural
Oh,
resource.
absolutely. Because it's our fresh water provides all of our drinking water. So
Mhm.
important. Yeah.
One bit of history that we've shared on the podcast before is that from 1880 to 1910, Lake Erie was the world's largest producer of freshwater fish,
Yeah.
the Lake Erie perch.
Right. Right.
So let's move forward just a little bit. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food. My problem is I have a lot of favorite foods. You would think I'd say Italian, but I had so much Italian food growing up. I love it still,
Hmm.
but I really I love vegetables and
Hmm.
vegetable dishes and salads and salmon. I love any kind
Hmm.
of food. I don't really have a one favorite.
Well, good. Salmon. Okay.
Salmon. Uh,
So let's.
oh, I was just gonna say, when I lived in Washington, I remember seeing the salmon swimming upstream. I
Oh
remember
yeah,
going on a walk with my dad after they had died off,
Wow.
and that was just
that's very cool.
it was a wild thing, especially in the Pacific Northwest. They have all those salmon, and it's weird
Mhm.
when you're walking by there and you start smelling it, and you're like,
Oh yeah.
oh, it's salmon season.
I like a bagel with lox.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
good too.
Yeah. Some good sour cream. So, the main topic of our discussion today, Anna, is how did Save the Blasco movement start?
Okay. Well, it kind of started haphazardly because it was something that was done behind the scenes without the public really knowing what was going on. And we just found out about it 3 days before the county council was going to vote whether or not to pass this lease for Gannon. We didn't know the details of the lease at that
Mhm.
point. We just knew that Gannon was going to go in and take space, quote, for a research lab.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were alerted by some of the people who knew about it. And so we all went to the county council meeting. And many, many people spoke.
Mm-hmm.
And most everybody was against, not the project,
Mm-hmm.
because we were told it was a research project.
A research
And
project.
important because this is one of the most important bodies of water, and it's
Mhm.
fresh water, and we
Mhm.
got to protect it. And so everybody's like, definitely not against that. But we were against having them put a research lab in the library.
Mm.
And so a lot of people showed up. Of course, we didn't win the fight that night. The lease got passed. And so after that, we're like, no, this can't be the end of the story.
This cannot stand.
Yeah, it cannot stand. And so a couple of us, Doris Sapola and
Mhm.
I, we went together, and we didn't know a lot of the other. We might have known them by name, but we really didn't know a lot of them. And we're like, no, we have to do something. So we got to make people aware, because most people didn't know that this even happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when did you find out?
Well, I found out when I was driving around Perry Square and I saw a demonstration in
All
front of
right.
the Gannon Athletic Center.
Okay.
And I saw you with a big poster that said Save the Blasco. And I knew what Blasco was, but I didn't know what Save the Blasco meant or why. And I began to become more curious, and I eventually attended a couple of those demonstrations and learned more from yourself and Doris.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned from you about the speaking that was done at county council.
Yes.
And I'm kind of curious, with a vote this important, a project this important, Did the county executive ever attend one of these county council meetings?
Not any that I was ever to. I don't think he would send a representative. Chris
Sure.
Carroll would come or somebody else.
Right.
Toward the end, it was I forget his name. Well, the Doug Smith,
Uh-huh.
and he was there for that first one actually, and he pretty much told us that you're gonna. This is such a wonderful thing for the library, and you don't represent thousands of people who probably are for this. It's like, well, none of them showed up except the people that were against it and the people who were involved in the project. But you got to watch the documentary, because the documentary really follows from the very first meeting
Mm-hmm.
to pretty much the end of the story, although the settlement itself isn't covered because that would have taken much longer. But it does cover the whole process that we went through, the demonstration, the letters that we wrote to, editor, and, the meetings that we had with Gannon.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that is in the documentary. Well worth watching.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the documentary called?
The documentary is Save Blasco.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder, well, who is Blasco? And the really cool thing about the documentary and how that came about, the lady who moved next door was talking to Hugh and I, my husband,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, so what are you involved in? And so, we started telling her about the library. She says, oh, this story has to be told. This story has to be told. And she volunteered all of her services to produce and direct the documentary.
Amazing.
And so it was all for free, because she wanted the story out there, because it wasn't getting out there.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't, unfortunately, read the newspaper like they used to. They don't watch the news. And a lot of times you don't get a lot of the news that you want people to know. The big story.
Mm-hmm. I remember even hearing about that, and like you would hear on like Talk Erie or one of the other services, and it would either be someone from Gannon talking or former county executive Bretton Davis.
It's on regularly.
And because Bretton Davis, I think Christina Vogel has kept up with that. They go on there every month,
they're
I think.
on now, yes.
But like they've tried to paint this as a thing that just a couple people are.
Oh yeah, they called us 3 or 4 old ladies.
Yeah,
many
3 or
times
4 old
we got
ladies.
called 3 or 4 old ladies.
You had a petition circulated.
Yes, we did.
How many signatures did you
Well,
get?
the first petition that we had almost 7,000.
7,000.
Yeah.
7,000.
And that kept growing regularly. And funny thing is, in our discovery stuff, they were keeping track of this. The fact that we had this, petition, and we had this many signatures. They were keeping track of all of the stuff that we were doing. Not happily, but they were keeping track. And so we did end up with about 7,000, lots of different ages, so many different people who were definitely, when they found out about it, were like, yeah, this is a fine program. It's great. Doesn't belong in the library.
Well,
I was just going to say, I always found it most fascinating that it was Project Neptune.
Yes.
And we have a beautiful statue of Minerva right there.
Yes.
And that was probably my favorite part from the documentary. I'm like, yes, Minerva beats Neptune.
Wasn't that is one of, I've seen the documentary so many times I can't tell you, because I worked with Casey to help put it together, since I was very involved with, all the meetings and all the, everything that we did.
Casey's the director of
Yes,
Save Blasco.
Casey Mel is the director, Second State Films.
Second State Films.
Yeah, and it was amazing. Like she did a great job of putting it together, telling the story. She said this story has to be told, and I think hopefully everybody's going to watch it that watches this.
Right.
And so you'll have a link, right?
Definitely. We'll have a link.
I was literally just about to say that. I was going to say, I also see that there are a bunch of film festival awards for this documentary, which I'm very excited to see.
I know.
Erie
we
International.
have got 7 just on the film. Ooh. 2 of them were actually local Erie film festivals.
Very nice.
And one of them, we won the Audience Choice Award. which is
Fantastic.
very, very cool. And the interesting thing about that is none of the news media have picked up the story. We have a director and a story that's really I mean, it should appeal to anybody. And it's important for libraries everywhere. And
Sure.
just the idea of protecting public resources and the fact that if you fight to save something, you can't just leave it to chance that they're going to make the right decisions and everything's okay. And so I think it shows that a small group of people, can make a difference. And so yes, they refuse to cover the fact that we have won that many. And then the other thing is the theme song is really cool. It was written by our son John McCartney, who goes by John Bueno on stage name.
Okay.
Right on.
And Casey heard the song and she went, he wrote that 2 years before the film ever came out, not realizing that it was going to really fit so perfectly in the film. But Casey heard it and she said, this has to be the song. And that won 2 honorable mentions. One out of Greece, a film festival in Greece, and another one in Los Angeles Film Festival. So
Good
he
exposure.
won honorable mentions for his song in the movie. And so, but you would think, wouldn't you, that someone in Erie would want to do a story about that?
Right.
The Erie media
Which
apparatus.
is really sad. And the fact is, too, that a lot of people don't know that what happened is when we were in the local one, the Lake Effect Film Festival that was in September, both news channels had done little stories about that film festival that was coming up. And actually, the Erie Reader, I don't know how it got in there, but Liz Allen did a story about the documentary being in the film festival.
Did you work with Liz Allen at the Erie Times News?
Oh, yes, I did. She was my editor.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I really love working with her. Yeah, she's great.
You know, you mentioned the media coverage.
Yes.
That touched on different points or was non-existent. And with a film that's this successful, it almost raises the question, shouldn't there be a book about the Save the Blasco movement so that book can get into the library?
Oh, good idea.
That's a good idea.
Hey,
Jeff,
Scribble some notes.
Pat on the back for that one.
There's another stage to
There you
this.
go.
There's a way forward.
That's
yeah.
right. And I have so much stuff that it could easily make a really decent book. I got lots of photos, lots of photo ops. But yeah, it's really sad. The thing when we were in the Lake Effect Film Fest, they were at the Tom Ridge Environmental Center. And so when we saw that, we were really excited because we thought we're going to be shown at the Tom Ridge. And then they had us on the schedule for 5 Iron. And so we checked with them and said, hey, we really want to be at the Tom Ridge Center. So they said, well, you didn't have the right format. So we did all the work to get it in the right format. And I called the Tom Ridge Center and they said, yeah, bring it out. We wanted to make sure it was the right format.
Sure.
And right before we left, I get a phone call saying, don't bring it. We're not going to show it here. One of our partners is not. And so they wouldn't say who the partner was.
Of course.
But we pretty much figured out who the partner could be. The Regional Science Consortium is under Gannon. They're employees of Gannon. And so I was like, I couldn't think of who else might. So the other thing they told us, there would be no other films shown at that same time. And there weren't. And then at the last minute, all of a sudden, there was an 11 o'clock show at the Tom Ridge Center.
Wow.
And we were at the 5 Iron. But we won the Audience Choice Award anyway.
Right.
And so, but nobody covered it.
Goodness.
Yeah. So that kind of tells you there's something wrong in Erie, PA, as far as like who's controlling what's on the news. That's what we started to wonder. Like, the whole thing with the coverage on the fact there was very little coverage on the settlement and what this project really, the problems with it, no coverage. And so it really makes us wonder, like, who's covering the news?
I see constantly in the news just articles that are the most boring 3 sentences that talk about something in Erie I've ever read in my entire life. Jeff, I'm gonna have you move a little bit closer to me so we're a little more in frame.
Right on.
But I am constantly reading the news, and half of them are behind a paywall. First thing,
Right, which is really difficult.
and
Unless you buy, and it's fairly expensive now.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe how much a paper copy edition of the paper costs during the week. It's like $2 or something.
Right.
It's like, oh, I remember when it was a quarter.
And the size.
Yes, it's really shrunk, and I
right.
knew whenever I was working there that it kept shrinking, and I had to cutting the articles to shorter, and leaving out a lot of stuff because you had less and less room because they shortened the pages.
And it's no longer locally owned. I think
No,
it's a
no, it's
Gannett
not.
publication, maybe.
No, they're not locally owned anymore.
And it's printed in Meadville now.
Well, I think it was printed in Butler. I don't know if they
Okay.
changed it, but whenever they started, it was going to Butler, getting printed and brought up here from Butler.
So, as somebody with as deep historical ties,
Yes.
professionally and personally, to Erie and the Erie County area, we should talk a little bit about Dr. Raymond Blasco
Oh, absolutely.
and the kind of person he was,
Oh, yes.
and how the library came to be named after Dr. Blasco.
Yes.
And can you comment on that a little bit?
I can, and I really had the pleasure of talking and becoming friends with Dr. Blasco's niece, his sister's daughter. And she's an amazing person, and she has books full of articles and you name it, anything that had to do with the library, she has it, pictures, every article. So we met with her a few times and learned a lot about how important libraries were to Dr. Blasco, because he felt that that's how you enriched your life and were able to become a better person. And he wanted the bookmobile so that people in outlying areas who didn't have access to a library would have, their bookmobiles. And so he really invested heavily in the, especially the Blasco Library. But the family was also involved. Like his sister her and her husband were involved with the library in Edinburgh.
Okay.
And donated money there. And so libraries were a very important part of the family. And it was a pleasure. I mean, I've seen pictures of him as a young man and when he was in the service. And I have all kinds of really cool pictures.
So he has deep roots to the community
yes,
also.
very deep roots. And he really credits the library as being a very important part of how he, became the person that he was. And he has a scholarship at the Wattsburg, the high school there in Wattsburg for kids, and it's been going for a long time. But he and Jim Spiegel really worked hard. So we've dedicated the film to both of them. Nice. And also we dedicated it to one of the very special librarians who used to work at the library. And so I don't know if you saw that at the end, and Amy Doherty.
Okay.
And she was a very, very special. We took out an ad at the beginning because so many people knew her that and it was a little expensive to get an ad. It was a full-page ad. And lots of people signed our petition because we said, and she was a Gannon graduate. And so her sister was really instrumental, and I learned a lot about Amy Doherty. And we dedicated it to her and all the librarians, because librarians are very special people.
Right.
And they do a very difficult job, but they love what they do, and we're so lucky to have them.
Sure. The priests of the Dewey Decimal System.
I just want to say I am not from Erie. I moved to Erie in 2020. And Erie has a great library, like a really nice library. We have the Idea Lab, all that historical area with the microfilm that I absolutely have no idea how to use because I'm a little too young. But it's an amazing library that has all these different services and like a lot of And I think a lot of people forget how useful a library
Yes.
is because they haven't been there in a while.
Yeah.
And a
And
lot of
it's not just books.
it's not just books. I mean, I know this is a little off topic, but still on topic, but a lot of people have found, like, I like the TV show South Park. There are banned episodes on Paramount Plus, but you can go to the library and rent the DVDs
Yes.
to watch a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, it provides entertainment for people. It provides a space for social workers to meet
Yes.
with their clients.
Very important.
And
And I think in the documentary you'll see a lot of the people who benefited from the library came to speak about why the library was so important to them. So many people don't have the resources at home, especially the computer lab was a huge.
Right.
And that was one of the hardest things when they took and dismantled the computer lab and moved it upstairs, and they kept saying it came downstairs because of COVID and it was just going back, which was totally not true. And it was proven not true. It was part of the master plan to bring it downstairs because that's where people wanted it to be. And so, but they kept saying, oh, it came down because of COVID. And I can't tell you how many times that was repeated. And we kept trying to correct.
Right.
But I was on Talk Erie with Krista Perry, and we were on, and we said, now this is not true. But then Brenton Davis is on again, and he says, yeah, we brought it down, and what's his name, who speaks, the Talk Erie host.
Joel.
He says, yes, yeah, they brought it down because of COVID, right? And I was like, did he listen to anything that we said? I mean, they even had a copy of the master plan on their website.
Wow.
And so this is the kind of what we encountered, and but the library is so important to so many people, the collaboratory rooms. They were all very used spaces. And they kept saying it was unused space. And I was like, what space are they talking about that was unused?
Right. Immediately after COVID, the pandemic, when the world was just starting to reopen, that was one of the few public spaces that I could meet with my clients and be able to shut a door in a small room to preserve confidentiality.
Yeah.
And I would look out the window from one of those meeting rooms and see many different people, all kinds of backgrounds, using the internet lab, and a lot of people who didn't have the resources on their own at home to submit a job application. And that really is what sparked my passion and curiosity about the Save the Blasco movement. And we talk about librarians like Amy Doherty or even Michelle Ridge, the first director of the library, or Mary Rennie.
Yes.
And one of the most troubling images I saw on social media as the demonstrations began to gain momentum and the public speaking at county council gained momentum, pictures of books just trashed on the floor that were hurled out of the shelves that were being moved.
Yes.
And there's a certain culture that Raymond Blasco represented, that you represent, that Michelle Ridge, Amy Doherty,
she was
Mary
very
Rennie.
upset, Michelle Ridge. It's like we have her in the documentary as far as her letter that she wrote that Gannon then sent to the county executive and those folks and said, can you do something with her, basically. And so we got a lot of right to know materials that we had requested back from the county government. And then through Discovery, we got a lot more different emails that we saw that were going back and forth. And the work that was going on behind the scenes, they kept telling us, well, Gannon kept saying, well, they just followed the procedure. But what we found is that they were guiding the procedure because they wrote the lease. And at the first lease that they wrote, there's an email that says, thank you for letting us, submit the lease. And the first one wanted to just charge $5 a square foot.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. And so I don't know who decided to raise it. We don't know how it ended up with $7, but still crazy low amount. But they were very involved in the whole process. And they kept saying, oh, we just followed the county's but they were really leading a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very disturbing.
I remember in the documentary, one of the things I was shocked to hear was they pay less than the copy machine brings in.
Yes, yes.
And and like less than a third of one student's tuition
Yes.
at this university.
Yes.
And they even wanted to go farther than they ended up going. Personally, for me, one of the biggest things I found at the library, I like to listen to books. So I like the Idea Lab that has laser cutters, 3D printers, just a little bit of a maker space.
We made buttons there too.
I made plenty of
buttons.
Keep the library public.
Keep the library public.
Keep the library public.
I still have one on me.
And I guess one of the things that they wanted to do was use that. Great. There it is. And they wanted to use that Idea Lab space for free as well for
yeah. The thing is, but when you looked at what they got for free, it was the auditorium, the Admiral room, the classroom that was right next to the collaboratories, the Idea room, the bathrooms, all the common areas, which is, the entryway, pretty much the whole library. And to give you an idea that they showed a movie in the library, in the auditorium, Ripples of Plastic, and they didn't have to pay to use that. But if we wanted to go and show Save Blasco, we would have to pay $600 plus, depends on, how many hours you're there and so on. But we would have to pay, and they were getting that space for free. And so, but the settlement, luckily, one of the best things is settlement is they do not have free access to all those spaces. They're on the same footing as the rest of the people. If they want to use it, they have to pay for it.
The general public.
Yeah, the general public, we have to pay. And so now Gannon does not have access to all those spaces for free. And they pay for the 3,200 square feet.
And I'm sure they would have been using it for a lot of other stuff besides just...
I can't imagine it.
The water
It felt
research.
like they wanted more and more space, and there's stuff that points to that fact with some of the other emails, and we're not going to go into that today, but I have emails that show, that they wanted more.
That's chilling in a certain way.
Yeah.
And
it really they wanted to advance
it's so
even
sad
farther.
Because I used to work with some of the folks from Gannon when I was working at Sea Grant and when I was working at the paper. And, it's just really sad because, and a lot of people felt that they were very moral. A lot of people got their degrees there. They were so disappointed. They're like, I'm ashamed to be a Gannon graduate now because you could have pulled back from this, realizing that this is not going to look good. Look at the, optics of it.
Right.
And, but they really, we have to wonder, why did they want that so bad? They kept saying they had to have it because their research lab had to be on the waterfront. Well, it does not have to be they're just a few minutes up the road anyway, but that's definitely not true. I worked with researchers all over the Great Lakes with my work at Sea Grant. They didn't have labs on the waterfront. And, but they were saying it has to, and they had people believing that. Well, they have to, and so that's one of the only spaces, but it was supposed to be in the Union Fish Building. And how did it get changed from the Union Fish Building? Well, it was changed whenever Davis offered to Keith Taylor, you can use the library. And so did they change that on the grant? The grant was for, that they wrote was for water program to improve water quality.
So it started out as a research lab.
Oh, yeah, let me read you the... just let me find it real quick, that what they wanted, they got. At the center of it all is a $1.5 million in federal pandemic recovery funds, whose grant narrative was actually rewritten at Doug Smith, because when they first wrote it, he said that's not going to fit for the water. So it's too much economy related. So you rewrite it. So They rewrote it. So that was the first thing that's kind of suspect. It's kind of crazy. But it the actual, let me just real quickly find the
And Doug Smith is
he was the administrator. He was the administrator.
Chief of operations or
yes,
chief of staff.
For
the county executive.
For the county executive, right. And so let me just read to you that. Talk amongst yourselves for just a minute there. Say something, and as I look, because you have to just hear. Okay, here it is. The 2024, and this is one of the reports that I looked up. Erie County Recovery Plan Performance Report describes Project Neptune's original intent as a multi-phase initiative to measure, monitor, mitigate, and manufacture solutions for water quality improvement, not public education. Okay. And so, but the press release, whenever the settlement was made, Dr. Iwanenko said, it's characterized the center's original intent as educating the public about the wonder of the Great Lakes. Nowhere in that grant application or in any of those reports for that grant does it say, they did say that they could educate people about the research, but it never said that the intent was educating the public about the wonder of the Great Lakes. And they changed the name so many times. It was the Great Lakes Testing and Remediation Lab is in the document when they first got the $1.5 million. Then it went to the Great Lakes the Great Lakes Research and Education Center. Then it went to the Great Lakes Education and Research Center. That's after we filed our lawsuit, because that was one of the things we said. It doesn't fit to be in the library, to be a program in the library, you had to be similar to a library program. And so it didn't fit having a research lab. And so they changed the whole focus. And then eventually it became the Center for Lake Erie Education and Research. And so that it kept going through these name changes so that it kept making education be the prime part of why they're in the library. And I don't think they've done anything with the wet lab. I have not been in that part of the new area. Have you been?
I went up there.
Like that.
They have that
part.
big globe thing.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool.
Science on a Sphere was just cool looking.
And I do believe that's located where
that's where the collaboratory
rooms were.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they had some informational stuff there too. It was kind of in the back on the lower level.
Yeah. But I have not been in the very back because that's closed. There's that lab that you can see.
Oh, yeah, they have that.
But the actual, quote, research, I don't think anybody, and in fact, the other thing that's really very telling is, the fact that so much of this was really, Gannon had their fingers in it. Like Sam Mason wrote an op-ed piece, and it was in the Erie Times News. She was still I don't know, did you guys read it?
Sure.
Okay, she was still working at Penn State at the time. And in there, she did say that her husband worked at Gannon. But she didn't say that it was sent out to all the people at Gannon before it went to the paper. And then there was all kinds of emails. She got, quote, she called hate mail, where people were just saying, wait, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't belong in the library. And so then she would get responses from Dr. Iwanenko, that person, don't even pay attention to them kind of thing. And they were like really people who knew what they were talking about. But they had sent that out to their network of, everybody there in the Gannon administration.
Meanwhile, you had probably hundreds of alumni signatures on your petition.
Yes, we did.
And we should also point out, you refer to Dr. Iwanenko. He's the president of Gannon University. Now, is Gannon University's stance and mission, is it a teaching university or is it a research university?
They're not really a research. They're not known for research because they really... And the other thing that we found through the discovery is that two of the professors, in emails that we read, let me just quickly, one of them said, I'm not going to use that lab. It's much more convenient for me to use the labs here on campus. And the other one said, the education stuff's really good, I understand, but I don't understand the research. Don't we have these resources on campus? Or, is it something that we don't have here that we need to put in? And so he questioned the whole research part of it. And, it's just really crazy that their staff, and this was after they already had removed the computer labs, and they were still deciding what they were going to do. And in fact, they didn't even have a director. They got the grant in, I think it was February.
And that's February 25?
23.
23.
The 1.5 million.
Okay.
And she wasn't hired until late June of 2024. And so they didn't even have a director. It's like I don't know if you've ever written a grant, but I've written a lot of grants, and you really have to be specific. Who, when, why, where, like how many people are you going to touch? Who are the people that are going to be involved in this?
What's the community impact?
Yeah, exactly. I have seen nothing about, well, what research have they produced that would fit this grant? What have they done to improve water quality?
Would it be fair to say that Gannon University did not represent itself as understanding the impact on the community?
Yeah, I don't know what their reasoning is, because it's so hard to look at this stuff and not get angry, because it's like the behind the scenes stuff that was going on that people don't know about, and everybody's, oh, but it's such a cool place. It's like, yeah, but doesn't belong in our library. And we could have done that. When you think of how much 1.5 million, and when you think of our legal fees that we put out, the legal fees that Gannon had to pay, that the county council had to pay, and the county executive, those are taxpayer dollars.
Right.
And so when you think of all that money that got spent, think of what we could have done at the library to improve the library. And if we wanted to put a globe, we could have put in a globe. It didn't have to have Gannon's name all over it. And
we could have expanded the library rather than give up space.
Exactly.
We could have added more to the ideal
some
lab.
of that money to build a new branch. There's so many things we could have done with that money that was wasted, because they really, really wanted this place on the bay.
You mentioned Dr. Blasco's connection to Wattsburg and to Edinburgh. And one of the first things I learned when I moved to Erie in about 2010 was that the satellite libraries throughout Erie County share library card privileges.
Yes, yeah.
So although Blasco Library is the center, it's I guess the mother home for the library system in Erie County. There's branches all throughout Mill Creek, through Edinburgh,
and even
Northeast.
even Meadville and Northeast, which is not part of the public library system, Erie County Public Library, but they do use the services, and they do share services so that they can get some of the books from the Blasco that they might not have at Edinburgh or Northeast, which is really wonderful.
I was just going to say, it's hard to see also like how Gannon, we've seen over the past several decades, private industry come in and take over public spaces.
Yes.
And, oops, I bumped something. Make sure I didn't do anything bad. And like, it just seems like a continuation of that. That's the more.
Well, it's gentrified. I mean, the thing is, they've bought so much. I was so shocked, because after I retired, I didn't come into Erie on a regular basis. But when I did start coming in, actually a lot of it was specifically tied to coming in to protest on the corner. But I was like really shocked at all the Gannon flags all over the place. And, a lot of the houses that have been bought up that were in that area that were, that people could afford no longer can live in these areas. And it's like, oh yeah, now it looks real cleaned up and it's got all these flags. But they're gentrifying the area and making it difficult for people and housing.
People who are from Erie.
Yeah, and Erieites, and who used to live in those areas no longer can take advantage. And the other thing that's really troubling is the use of the bayfront and how it's getting developed, and leaving out the people in the 16501, the people who can't afford to go buy lunch or dinner or whatever to go be at the bayfront. And so we're leaving out a lot of people. And that's one of the things I've been very interested in is everybody keeps talking about the blue economy and how it can bring in, let's bring in people from other areas, and that's one of the things I kept saying about the library. We're going to make it a destination. And it already is a destination for people who want to go to the library. It doesn't have to be, it's like, oh yeah, we come to Erie and go eat at the so-and-so and do this. And you might hear that actually in the documentary, but a lot of people don't have money to go out and do all those things. What we need is spaces on the bayfront that are open. So like, I know that I remember reading that, the tower, the bathrooms there, you now have to go in and buy something in order to use the bathroom.
Wow.
And so there's no place to go. So if you're not a rich person who are going to be able to go and buy lunch or whatever, and you want to go enjoy the bayfront and you need to go to the bathroom, what do? It's like, we're not thinking of the people who really deserve to enjoy nature as much as anybody.
Right. The porta potties at Lampy Campground in Marina are a little bit out of the way.
Yeah.
And around the corner.
I've even heard some of the security getting a little aggressive with people who are just kind of hanging out.
That wouldn't
and
surprise me.
not.
Well, I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that Brian Shank is one of the security people at the library now.
He was formerly on county council.
He was the one, oh yeah.
And he was allied with the...
He's at the very beginning of the documentary. He was the one who had people thrown out by the sheriffs and told us that we couldn't all speak about the library. They ended up wasting so much time, it was ridiculous.
That's when Lissy came up to speak at the very beginning of the Save Blasco movie.
She's the star.
Yeah.
He's the star.
Didn't he just get up and leave at one point? Or something.
It's crazy when you see that's the other thing I learned, because I did not before that go to county council meetings. I mean, we'd go every now and then to something if it was about voting or something, but not on a regular basis. And what I really would like to tell people is you need to get involved. You need to get involved in local government. You need to know what's going on, because I don't think the people who voted yes to pass this lease had any idea really what was in that. They were, we got to protect the lake, and that's how it was sold. That's our drinking water. We got to protect it. But I don't think they couldn't possibly have really looked at all the details and asked the questions that we're asking, and they're still not asking, because here we are. It's like almost 3 years. In October it'll be. Well, actually. It will be 3 years, because it all started in June, toward the end of June, when Brenton Davis had a conversation with Keith Taylor about giving him the library.
So that came out in the Discovery.
Yes, that came out in the Discovery. So all of that was behind the scenes. And actually in August, Brenton Davis sent an email to the then director, Karen, can't think of her last name now. The director.
I wanted to say Karen Pierce, but
I think so. I think
the name that I'm most familiar with is Mary Rennie, of course.
Oh yeah, because she was the director for so long.
Right.
But the thing is, he sent an email to those two, her and Sarah Ewing, who's the vice president of Gannon, and copied Dr. Iwanenko, and it said, "Okay, ladies, begin planning for the construction." This is in August, long before. Wow. Anybody ever knew what was going on. So it was really behind the scenes. And Dr. Iwanenko had sent an email to Brenton Davis shortly after the one to Keith Taylor. Hey, we want to get BSI in the building, And so they had all of this planned before that ever came up for, the vote.
Well, in the few minutes we have left, Anna, today, let's talk about what was the outcome of the legal case. What are some of the changes that you and the Save Blasco movement achieved?
Real quick, I just want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask one more thing. Gannon has been buying up all those properties and talked about gentrification. They are a Catholic university. Are they paying taxes on any of these properties?
They don't pay taxes on an awful lot of properties. There's a few, I think, that are taxed, but most, there was an article in the Erie Times, and we refer to it in the documentary, that if they were to pay taxes, I think it was like 2 million or something on all the
Yeah,
property they
it's
own.
There is something called pilot.
They don't
Pay-
have a pilot program.
No
which
payments in lieu of
'cause
taxes?
No payments. And the one time they gave the city a police car or something like that, but
Huh.
they haven't done a pilot program in a long time. So someone in the documentary says it really well. It's representation without taxation. And so that's basically what it is. But most importantly, and the settlement was tough because, I mean, we would have loved to have taken it to trial because we really wanted the lease voided. But most importantly, future leases or sales of public library property will require public input. That's the number one thing because we were not
Tremendous.
involved in that decision. Gannon, not library staff, must man the space during library hours because there was some talk of sharing people in emails. Public access to Gannon space must be guaranteed and free because there was also some that sometimes they might charge to see, the science on the sphere or whatever. Gannon can't use the Idea Lab in classrooms. Access to Hurt Auditorium, Admiral Room is restricted and must be paid for. Lease revenues will pay for library initiatives. Gannon's monthly usage must be reported to the library board. Now, this is kind of the stuff that we have to be careful to follow up on because some of their comments have said they already have had 6,000 people come in, and I find that hard to believe. Every time I've been there, hardly anybody's there. And,
How are they counting it?
Yes, and then one day I asked, how are you counting? And it's like if you walk in and look at something, he puts a slash mark. And so that's how they count how many people. To me, that's not really showing how this area is being used, and is it really being used to the full what a library could have been.
It's a giant
before.
globe. Of course,
So
people
that-
are going to look at it.
Yeah, and that's what I did. Look at it, and I got counted, so that to me doesn't count as, true. And the lease was reduced from 25 to 10 years.
10 years.
And Erie County Public Library card holders can use the Gannon Nash Library for free. But now I've heard from a couple people, and we also have to check up on this, is that they've been charging people who are going in there, charging them $10 for a library card. And so I've got to follow up on that and find out what the heck's going on there because that was part of the settlement. And so they then, in their press release, it sounded like, oh, we're going to be helping with, because one of the other things we agree, they can help with library, getting more people to sign up for the library. So that sounds really nice. And so they just led with all the things that sound like, look what we're going to do. We're going to add programming. We're going to, so it sounds like we're wonderful. But the things that we stop them from doing is taking over space and having to have public input and never having that ever happen again. So protecting public resources is becoming more important than ever because so many want to privatize this and that. Oh, let's this private-public partnerships. No. Let's protect the public stuff and really fund it because it benefits the public.
In public discourse, the mechanisms of accountability are crucial to maintaining a robust public library,
Absolutely.
to maintaining well-funded and well-established community services so that not just one special interest group benefits.
Right.
And with a rich school like Gannon, they can really just come in and dominate the conversation. Like they said, what did they say? 2 or 3 women complaining,
it's
and
like
you're just like, we have 7,000 signatures.
Absolutely. And so we are on Every Library, which is an organization, it's a national organization, interviewed me and Casey Mel, the director, and they have been working to libraries are under attack all over the country, so many different ways. This was a unique one compared to a lot of them were banning books, but also not funding libraries. And so they have a couple services that are great. We started a new petition once, we got finished with the change.org. We then started one with these guys, and also people could donate to our legal fund and have it be tax exempt because they are a 501c3, which we were not. And so people who wanted tax exempt were able to donate through them. And then they got 10% of the donation, but well worth it because they help libraries in lots of other places.
Everylibrary.org?
Yes.
Very good. So what do we do now? Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? Yeah, where do we go from here? I think one is making sure that these things are met, but not stopping. And so a lot of the people in our group have wanted to join other groups. I've become a member of Erie County United because they're doing some great things. Their leadership is wonderful. And, you know, we really need to combine our efforts, because that's the other thing we found. There was a lot of different groups doing little things, and if we could just combine efforts with lots of other groups, we could get a lot more accomplished. But the hardest part is getting the word out to what you're doing.
Sure.
And so I find that, you know, I look at some of their challenges. People just don't know about them. They don't have enough members. You know, we all need to start locally because there's big problems all over. But if you don't start little and start taking care of your backyard first, you know, it's not going to get better anywhere else.
Think local and act local.
Exactly.
Yeah, keep your eye on the poor and working class, you know. And I personally, as someone who is on disability and needs these services, like I see how private interests and moneyed interests can kind of decrease the services you're receiving. And
I think people don't understand, you know, that they're being taken advantage of, and they're not getting the services that they should have. You know, like healthcare, that's another whole thing. But you know, just all of these things that people don't understand how it works, and this whole nonsense with private, quote, public. It's the private taking advantage of the public in many of the cases. And you know, I don't know of too many that I really think are worthy of looking at and saying, oh, look at that private-public partnership. It looks like the private part is really benefiting a lot, and the public is like, oh, well.
Which part is in all caps and which part is not?
Yeah.
And even with some of these nonprofit hospitals you're seeing, you look at them and you're just like, you're set up to make money and everyone can see it.
Yeah.
And, you know, our care at hospitals keeps going down. They investigate themselves. So like they never find any problems.
Many things are, even universities have really gone the way of corporate. It's like money, it's how much money we bring in. And it's not so much more educating the masses to be thinking about the common good and what we used to remember when we went to college years ago. You know, you had to take all kinds of classes that were not business classes. You know, you had to have a wide range of, you know, so that you became a person who could think. And, and it's like, but now they're so concerned about money and how many students we get. And it's like, they're not making decisions for the common good.
De-evolution is real.
Yeah.
And we, I forgot where I was going with this. But go ahead, Geoff.
Sure. Well, Anna, we want to thank you very much for joining us today on the Common Liberty podcast. Today is Thursday, April 23rd, 2026. So where we go from here is going to be a reflection of the tremendous service that you and Keep Our Library Public organization have performed for Erie. And we talk about how the landscape has changed, not just at Blasco, not just on the bayfront, not just on Lake Erie, but the landscape has also changed in terms of the media coverage, whether it's newspaper, social media, television, radio. All of those things contribute to choices that people have. And without an informed choice, how can the public effectively gain? How can the public effectively benefit?
I think they can't, and that's what we're seeing, because why aren't reporters, we don't have enough investigative reporters to go out and say, hey, what did you do with that money? Show us the results of the water quality improvements that you're supposed to make. Like, I shouldn't have to ask those questions. but that's what a press is supposed to do. They're
Mhm.
supposed to be, that part of society that keeps
Right.
people honest. But I don't know. That's the scary part. So think programs like this where people can hear information that they would not hear on TV really makes a difference. And I guess we need more independent news people who are going to bring these things out
Sure.
and not be afraid because you're somehow related to, have somebody on your board who
Mhm.
happens to be the group that you don't want to question. It's we've seen an awful lot of that. It's like there are so many intertwined groups of
Right.
people who make the decision, and little people aren't on those boards.
Yep.
We're the last to find out.
One of the things I always talk about is like Infinite Erie. And you look at their board and it's all people from Erie Insurance, Erie Community Foundation. It's all intertwined.
Yeah, they're very
And-
intertwined, and and I don't know any of those people really. Like, do you
Yeah.
know any of the people on those boards?
Well, I would say if I do know them, I know them in passing.
Okay, but
I
you don't
know
know
them informally.
Yeah,
And I think I agree with you that there is a certain parochialism
yes,
embedded in the history of Erie,
yeah,
and transformation is the key to survival. If Erie wants to regain its prominence in northwestern PA and to emerge from the Rust Belt as the gem city that we call it, we need more people like you, Anna, and we need more support for Keep the Library Public.
yes, we really do. We need people to speak out, and you know how many. Kathy Dahlkemper came out and spoke and did a wonderful piece in the Erie Times, but did you see a whole lot of other
Right.
people who were,
Not much.
in
Not
the
much.
community? It's like everybody. I was really disappointed in the Jefferson Society. They're all about democracy. I was extremely disappointed in the Erie Reader. When they did the story about the settlement and this issue, they actually got thanked by Dr. Iwanenko. Thank you for the piece, because it doesn't say anything.
That's really revealing.
Yeah, it's very revealing. And Liz had done that short article about the film, and they didn't put anything about what we really got out of the settlement, or they didn't get asked any hard questions. And it was very disappointing, because I used to think they were, oh, that's a bright spot. They like democracy. They like to tell the stories about the important stuff. And then it's like, and they never got back to me. I sent them a letter. I actually was paying to get, because I thought, oh, I'm going to support them, because I like to try to support people who were doing news coverage. And I definitely stopped my subscription and no longer pay. But they never got back to me to say, well, gee, we didn't get your, we didn't ask the other side what was going on. They just totally never responded. And it's like, that's really sad. At least you can respond.
It's poor journalism.
It's like, say something. I was paying you for your magazine.
Right, right. Well, Eric, are there any final points we want to get into?
I think that is it for me. You want to head us out, Jake?
Sure. Well, today we've explored the really important changes in Erie's public discourse over the last 3 years, especially since the plan to introduce Gannon University into public space at Blasco Library. So, Anna, we really want to thank you for your time and effort. We want to thank you for coming on the Common Liberty podcast today.
Thank you so much.
But certainly we want to keep in touch with you and keep track of how Gannon is held accountable at the Clear at Blasco Library.
Yes, I expect to. We have met with Christina Vogel once, and I definitely want to meet with her again. I would love to meet with all of County Council. I did send a letter to everybody, but didn't get a response.
Yeah, the best way is to call them.
Yeah. So, I think Christina's really doing a good job so far, and I'm glad she won the election, and I think she really has her heart in the right place. It's just, I worry about the new people, and will they get swept up in the same good old boys and good old people at the top kind of.
It's early.
That scares
in her
me
administration.
because it's so easy. Here you are, you're new, and you're going to fight all of this. You know, that's hard. And I really feel, I worry for them. And I hope that they're not swept into that.
Christina seems to be a very capable county
Yes,
executive.
very caring.
The right kind of experience,
Yes.
the right connections to the community, and hopefully this will translate to an even brighter future for Blasco Library.
Yes, I hope so. So I intend to meet with her again for sure. So
Wonderful. Thank you, Anna.
thank you.
Thank you, Anna.